Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Boker Tov, good morning. Good to be in the house of the Lord today. Did you enjoy the worship time?
Yes.
Amen.
Thank you, Lord.
Let's keep those that are sick and shut in prayer, that we just continue to keep our congregation in prayer. And so glad to have some of our first-time guests here today. And we're going to look at a message called Show Me Your Glory. Can you say that?
Show me your
Show me
glory.
your glory. And we say welcome. We're glad you have come today. Bruchim habaim, which is welcome in Hebrew to all of you. And we say Shabbat Shalom. We're going to get right into our portion that is based upon the Torah reading of Shemot, or Exodus 30, verse 11 through 34, verse 35. And Melachim Aleph was the prophet reading, or Haftarah, out of 1 Kings 18, 1 through 39. And 1 Corinthians 8, 4 through 13 was a great read. How many are ready for 10 minutes of Torah? All right. And our first-time guests are like, he's only going to speak 10 minutes? What's going on there? But we do 10 minutes of Torah, 10 minutes of prophets, and 10 minutes of Brit Hadashah, the new covenant. So it kind of gives us our 10, 10, 10. How many are enjoying the morning manna?
Yes.
That is on the back of your outline. And we also posted on Facebook for you to follow 6 days of morning manna, of reading your own devotional word from each portion of the Torah until you get to the Shabbat. And it's really a great way to look up supporting scriptures, have a prayer focus, and a spiritual challenge, a question to challenge you spiritually. So as we get into our Torah portion, it's found in Exodus chapter 30. I'm actually going to pick up, I believe, in verse number 12 here. Hopefully I'm not mixing up 31 with 30. Our reading actually starts in Exodus 30, verse 11, but we're going to pick up on verse number 12. And I feel like I've got the wrong verse here, so somebody check this with me. Nonetheless, here we have, it says in the Torah, it says, Then Adonai said to Moses, Come up to me on the mountain and stay there, and I will give you the tablets of stone with the Torah and the mitzvot which I have written, so that you may instruct them. So Moses rose up along with his attendant Joshua, and Moses went up onto the mountain of God to the elders. He said, Wait for us here until we come back to you. See, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a dispute should go to them. So I've chosen not to start with the beginning of the read. I do feel like I should be having a different chapter here. If someone finds it, you can let me know, because I don't feel like it's chapter 30 there. 31. Is it 31?
What's next?
31, yeah, 31:12.
It should be 31:12. So just take note of that. You can write that on your outline. Instead of 30, it's 31:12. And notice that Moses is going up in the mountain, and the tablets are given to him, the Torah, which is the law of Moses, and the mitzvot. What's a mitzvah?
Commandments.
Yeah, when I was dealing with the death of a Jewish woman this week that I had to get assistance of an Orthodox rabbi, I told the rabbi, I said, I feel like I did my mitzvah for the day. And he was laughing and thought, yeah, well, you did. This was a great intervention on behalf of this family that lost their family member. And so in this passage, you see in verse 13, it says, So Moses rose up along with his attendant who? Joshua. And it's interesting that Moses goes all the way to the top of the mountain, and Joshua is, as we will see, actually goes halfway up the mountain. So again, we're in chapter 31 instead of 30. It says, verse 15, when Moses went up on the mountain, the cloud covered it. The glory of Adonai settled upon Mount Sinai. And the cloud covered it how many days?
6 days.
6 days. So notice this. The cloud covered it for 6 days. It doesn't even look like 31. I'm not sure what chapter this is. It's in the Bible, but is that?
I think it's 30.
And then it says, the appearance of the glory of Adonai was like a consuming fire on the top of the mountain in the sight of the sight of Bnei Israel. Who's Bnei Israel?
Sons of
That's the
Israel.
Hebrew for sons of Israel, or sometimes we call them the children of Israel. Now, notice verse 18. So Moses entered into the midst of the cloud and went up onto the mountain. Moses was on the mountain how many days and nights?
40.
40 days and nights. So you can see that Oh, I know exactly what chapter this is. It's from last week's portion, chapter 24. I remember that when I started with the original chapter 30, verse 11, I decided that was not where I wanted to go. And I went back to last week's portion to chapter 24. So if you notice in your Bible, you will notice that in chapter 24, which is the setup for this week, this section is a parenthesis. So I'm going to give you a little background. Does anybody know what chapter the Ten Commandments are in? Exodus 20. The setup for that set of Ten Commandments is chapter 19, especially verse 4 through 6, that says you're going to be a holy nation, a kingdom of priests. You will be a special treasure, or literally a peculiar people, or a chosen people, Am Segula, on the face of the earth. So in chapter 19, it tells them, if you accept this covenant, this is what you'll be. A holy nation, a peculiar people, or chosen people. You'll be a kingdom of priests, or a royal priesthood. What we hear in 1 Peter 2:9 is actually a repeat to the same people that are now in the diaspora, dispersed in the nations, that need to know, even though you're not in Israel anymore, you're dispersed among the nations, you're still God's chosen people. You're still a holy nation. You're still chosen. You're still a royal priesthood. And so when you look at chapter 20, which is recording 10 what?
Words,
The
commandments.
10 words, the Aseret HaDibrot, or what we traditionally translate as 10 Commandments, which is actually incorrect. There's not 10 Commandments. How many commandments are there?
600.
613 just in the Torah alone. That's okay. New Covenant, they found 2,000.
That's right.
They have found 2,000 in the New Covenant. Now, what's the 2,000? Anytime the commandments of the Hebrew Scriptures are quoted, then that's a quote. And then any extra commandment on top of those, like if you look at a woman and lust after her, you've already committed adultery. That's just an expansion of those, or more details of those original 613. And anytime one of the apostles gives extra instructions, it's all recorded as a commandment from either the Lord himself through Moses or the prophets, or guess what? Even the apostles of the Lord, they're still commands to us. Amen? If he says, pray without ceasing, that's a command. Correct? So you can see, actually, the New Covenant is full of laws. So don't buy the lie that, well, the Old Testament is law, the New Testament is grace. There's just as much grace in the Old Testament as in the New. And there's just as much law in the New Testament as in the Old. The only difference is now we have the person that embodies both law, truth, and grace, all in one. And that's Yeshua the Messiah. He's the fullness of all of God's law, all of God's grace, all of God's truth in one person. So we have the fullness, or the full revelation that they were all speaking about in one person. So then what happens when we start getting all these extra chapters, chapter 21, chapter 22, chapter 23, leading up to this chapter, chapter 24? What we have is not the storyboard anymore. We have a list of commandments. So you can literally pause from the story, because all of this is taking place within how many days, according to this text? 40 days and 40 nights. So guess what? Do you think Moses just gets 2 tablets and sits around twiddling his thumbs for the next 40 days and nights? No. As he's fasting, as he's praying, as he's receiving, as he's meditating in the presence of God, he's getting everything that he's going to write down in the Torah. Where do you think he came up with 5 books from? How was he able to accurately give us every detail of Genesis and he wasn't there? Yes, oral tradition would have passed it down. But in the presence of the Lord, like we sang about, all of those finer details would be clearly defined when God spoke to him face to face. Not only one time for 40 days, but twice. Confirmed in Deuteronomy chapter 9 if you read it. At least 2 times he was in the presence, 40 days and 40 nights. That's 80 days of being in God's presence and getting revelation. So you better trust that everything that's written in the Torah is directly coming from God himself to Moses or through Moses, not from Moses.
Amen. Amen.
Yes, very important that we realize that. Now, I love the fact that it tells us, and this is actually chapter 31 verse 12, it says, Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, speak now to Bnei Israel, saying, surely you must keep my Shabbatot, my Sabbaths, for it's a sign between me and you throughout all your generations, that you may know that I am Adonai, or the Lord who sanctifies you. Verse 15, work is to be done for 6 days, but on the 7th day is a Shabbat of complete what? Rest. What does God intend for Shabbat? For us to get what?
Rest.
Rest. So let's stop being so busy on Shabbat And let's start resting on Shabbat. And let's get busy during the week. And let's get our work done in 6 days. And if we can't get it done in 6 days, save it for next week, because you can't get it done anyway.
Right.
One extra day is not going to solve your problem. Have you ever thought if God could just add one extra hour to a day, we'd get, if I just had one more hour. No. You'd find more to do. And then you'd still need another hour. It's like money. The more money you make, the more money you need to make, because the more money you spend. So trust me, one more hour a day, or one more day out of the week, it's not going to help you. So just do what you can in 6 days, and then have a day to just shut down and refresh and rejuvenate and reconnect with God on a real intimate level, not only by yourself, but with a community of believers that are doing the same.
Amen.
That's the recharge that what Lord wants us to have. And you know your body doesn't recharge unless you have rest. Your body does some of the most amazing healing during the night when you're sleeping and you're resting and you go into REM sleep, because that's when your body rebuilds torn down tissue. You recover in the night. And if you're not getting good sleep, you wonder why you're so worn out and tired the next day, because you didn't get any rest. I say if you wake up with the Word and go to bed with the Word and wake up and pray and go to bed in prayer, you'll probably wake up with praise and also end with praise. Because God is controlling your day to start and even to the finish, even into the next day. And we're always putting God first. Amen?
Amen.
So notice that we're encouraged to get rest. Now, if we go to verse 16, it says, so Bnei Israel is to keep the Shabbat, to observe the Shabbat throughout their generations as a perpetual covenant. It's a sign between me and Bnei Israel forever. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he ceased from work and rested. If God can do it, how much more should we try to do it?
Amen.
Amen.
And it says in verse 18, and when he finished speaking, watch this, and when he finished what? Speaking with him. On Mount Sinai, he gave the 2 tablets of the testimony to Moses, tablets of stone written by the finger of God. Who wrote it?
God.
God did. It's not the law of Moses only, it's the law of God. Okay? Now, chapter 32 takes us a little bit further. In verse 1 it says, now when the people saw that Moses delayed coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said to him, get up, make us gods who will go before us. As for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we don't know what's become of him. Now tell me, again, what time period was this in that they were saying this? 40. So here we are in chapter 19, and then chapter 20, and God's giving the 10 words, and Moses is in Mount Sinai, and during the 40 days, God's giving him the tablets, and during this 40-day period, they're all complaining, so that chapters 20 all the way up to 24 are recording commandments that are just from the 40 days. And now we're in chapter 32, and we're still in the 40-day period. Notice these chapters. From 19 all the way to 32 is still in a 40-day period. But we stop telling the story, and we start giving the list of the commands. So all Moses is doing is taking a pause from the storyboard and listing commandments that are in the 40-day period. And before the 40 days are up, they're already complaining Moses hasn't come back yet. So watch what they say. Get up, make us gods who will go before us. As for this Moses, the man that brought us out of the land of Egypt, we don't know what's become of him. Verse 3. So the people broke off the golden rings that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. What did they do? They broke off their earrings and they gave them to Aaron. Verse 4. He received them from their hand and made a molten calf fashioned with a chiseling tool. Then they said, this is your God, Israel, which brought you up out of the land of Egypt. It wasn't God anymore. It's this thing we just made. This idol. How do you make God in your image when you're supposed to be created in His? Isn't it amazing that they just made this thing with their own hand? They said, okay, now this is your God. Really? So how can God be God if I can make Him? God is the maker. We can't make gods. Because just like the passage said in Corinthians, there's many gods and many lords according to the world, but really for us as Jews, there's only one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. And so when we think about our God, He's not many, He's one. And so He says in verse 8, whenever Moses went out to the tent, all the people would arise and stand, and everyone at the door of his own tent, and look after Moses until he had gone into the tent, tabernacle. After Moses entered, the pillar of cloud descended, stood at the door, and he would speak with Moses. Verse 10 says, when all the people saw, who? All the people saw. Who? All the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance of the tent. Notice the pillar of cloud is standing like a person. So imagine this pillar, kind of in the shape, imagine a pillar around a person, and this person is standing, but in this glory cloud. And this glory cloud is standing like a person and talking to Moses. And it says, and they all rose up and worshiped, every man at the entrance of his own tent. Why did they worship? Which means to lay prostrate on the ground. Because they saw God's glory. So they recognized the glory as a manifestation of God. His presence, right? So it says, verse 11, look what it says. So Adonai spoke with Moses, how? Face to face, as a man speaks with his friend. Now, did he see the face of God? No. It says he spoke to Moses face to face as a man speaks to a friend. So this is a Hebrew idiom. It's a simile to say something is like or as. The parables are extended similes because what they're saying is the kingdom of heaven is like. The Spirit of God came as a dove. The Holy Spirit's not a dove. He's not a little bird floating around. He came as a dove. How does a dove come? He gently hovers over that which he's ready to land upon. So when they saw the Spirit of God in a manifestation, probably some kind of mist or glory or light, whatever, saw the Spirit of God hover over him like a dove, the same Spirit of God that they would have seen over the tabernacle, the same Spirit of God they would have seen as a cloud by day and a fire by night. The Spirit of God, how did they know it was the Spirit of God? The same way they knew it was the Spirit of God in the Hebrew Scriptures. With Moses, Isaiah. They saw a manifestation of the glory hovering over Yeshua like a dove. Or I should do like this. Let me sheath.
That's right. Oh, nice.
For the Shekinah. Right? They might have even seen the letter Sheen show up like a dove.
Wow.
It does look like that. It's exactly what it looks like in Hebrew. When the priest would place the name of God on the people, they would actually do it like this. Because it was like the Shekinah coming on them like a dove. When the Spirit of God was hovering over the earth in creation, the rabbis say that the Spirit was hovering, as the verb is used for birds, like a dove.
Wow.
That's how they read in their commentary. When they read the Spirit of God hovered over the waters, it literally brooded like a bird does over the waters.
Wow.
And God broods over his nest, Israel, and stirs up his nest. Same word that's used, merachabet. The verb is to brood, to hover, to warm up the eggs so they hatch. So now watch this. Oh, I love this. Watch this. It says, so Adonai spoke to Moses face to face as a man speaks to his friend. Look at verse 14. My presence, in Hebrew it's actually my face. Panai, from the word panim, face of God. Panim el panim, face to face. Panim is presence, but it's actually the face of God. So to see God's face is to really see his presence. That's how it's understood. Because if you come before someone face to face, you come before their presence. So God can show you he is present by his presence.
Yes, Lord.
And the idea is that when you see the manifestation, you're seeing God's presence or his face. Now, this is the idiom, it's not reality. Watch. Verse 14, my presence will go what? With you. And I will give you what? Rest. What did he give you for Shabbat for? Rest. And he says, on that Shabbat, you need his presence to give you rest. So you can come to Shabbat and still not have his presence. You can read the Word of God and still not have his presence.
Amen.
You can sing songs and still not have his presence.
Amen.
When you go into your prayer closet, you have to come into the presence of the Lord. When you walk out, you'll walk with His presence. My presence will go with you. What came upon Moses' face? The glory of His presence went with him when he left the tabernacle.
Amen.
My presence, my face, the shining of my glory will go with you.
Yes.
Oh, is somebody getting it today? I hope you are. Look at verse 15.
Yes.
But then he said to him, if your presence doesn't go with me, don't let us go up from here. I pray that, Lord, if your spirit doesn't lead me, I'm not going. If your spirit doesn't speak through me today, I'm not going to speak. Until God leads me, or I know I'm being led by God, I'm not going to speak beyond Him. And I'm not going to make a decision beyond Him. I'm going to seek the presence of God until I feel His rest, His peace, and His presence. I know I'm making the right decision because I pray till the joy comes.
Yes.
I pray till the presence of the Lord comes, because in His presence is fullness of
Joy.
If you're still bitter, if you're still worried, if you're still frustrated, go back to the prayer closet. You're not done yet. Pray through until the joy comes, until the presence comes, until you walk out with your spirit's lifted. I will lift my face upon you. This is important, the presence of God. Now, he says, don't send us from here if you don't go with us. Presence doesn't go. Look at chapter 33, verse 18. Then he said, please show me your glory. Now, this must be something different. Because God's already said, I'm going to let my presence go with you. In fact, my presence is going to give you rest. So why this second question of, well, then show me your glory? Moses must be asking for something deeper. Watch this. Show me your glory, he says. So he said, I will cause all my what? Goodness to pass before you.
Wow.
What's the goodness? Okay. I'll let all my goodness pass before you and call out the name of Adonai before you. Possibly he would have heard the audible name of God being pronounced or some of His attributes being revealed. I will be gracious toward whom I will be gracious, and I will show mercy in whom I will show mercy. It sounds like I will be who I will be, doesn't it? But he also said, you cannot see my
Faith.
Wait a minute. I thought you said your presence or your face was going with us. Yes, I told you I would talk to you as a man talks to his friend face to face. But that's an idiom. It has a symbolic meaning. It means direct communication without the need of a mediator. Face to face means I'm not talking to you by text. I'm not talking to you by sending a messenger. I'm not going to talk to you through an angel. I'm going to talk to you directly in my presence in the cleft of the rock.
Yes.
I'm going to talk. You're going to hear my voice. You won't even see an angel. Now, angels were present, but you're going to hear me talk directly to you. So when a prophet comes, he says, what thus saith the Lord. When
Yes.
Yeshua came, he said, verily, verily, I say unto you.
Yes.
Because he was speaking as the express image of the Father.
Yes.
He was speaking directly.
Thank you, Lord.
Now, this is what you need to understand when it says you cannot see my face. No man can see me and what?
Live.
In other words, if I were to show you my intense glory, my direct face, your body could not handle the level and intensity of the glory. We can't even stare at the sun long enough before it blinds us, let alone get in a plane and fly towards the sun without disintegrating.
Yes.
How much more of the glory of God, which is greater than the sun, greater than the moon, greater than stars. God's glory is an intense light, heat, fire, presence. He's a consuming fire.
Yes.
You can't handle it in this physical state of sin that we're in. Now, look what it says in verse 21. Then Adonai said, see a place near me, you shall stand on the what? The rock. Sounds like the song. While my glory passes. Wait a minute, now we know what's happening here. He says, I'm going to let all my goodness pass before you. So what he said was, my goodness is my glory passing. So you can't see my glory, but I'll let it pass by you. I'll let you get a glimpse of it, but you can't look directly at it. So what you'll see is something passing by you, and in seconds it'll be gone.
Yes.
Because to stare directly at it for a long period of time is too much. You would die in my presence. No man can see, directly look at my glory and live. Because man is flesh, and no flesh will glory in my presence.
Oh, glory.
Right? You would die. So he says, I will put you in the cleft of the rock and cover you with my hand. In Hebrew, I forgot to change that letter K to the Hebrew text. But in your outline, notice it's the letter Kaf that looks like a little kippah. So the word Kaf, the Kaf, is the palm of the hand, and it's the first letter of the word kippur and kippah. Or the mercy seat, kaporet. It's the cover. So the word means to cover with the palm of the hand. So a kippah is a covering. That's what it looks like a backward C, a little covering. And it means to cup the hand like this. It's also used for a spoon. In Hebrew, kaf is a spoon. So it means to take your hand and cup it so you can bring water to your mouth. And so here we had this kaf, which is to cup the hand, or the palm of the hand, used to cover. So God says, I'm going to put my hand on you, not the yad. He says, I'm going to put my kaf on you, kafi. I'm going to put, not coffee, but kafi, meaning my hand on your head. So God cupped his hand to cover him, probably to shield his eyes. And what he was going to let him do, just like when we cover our eyes for the glory in the Shema, symbolic. He was going to remove his hand probably a little bit to allow him to see what's passed by. Because he's like, I've got to cover your hand, I've got to cover your head first, like this, just like a man covering himself with a prayer shawl. And then as soon as it's whipping by, on the last second of it, just imagine if you saw a light go, just fly right by you. You know, you see in the movies and like a ghost flies by, you see like this glimpse of some being flying by, and you don't know what it is, you can't really see what it is. Imagine beyond Casper and all these other things you see in TV. Imagine if God could let his glory come by like light and it just went.
Praise the Lord. Wow.
All you would see is a wisp of glory like a mist going by, but you could never catch what it was. What was it I just saw? It went so quick and so fast, I'm going to let my goodness or a manifestation of my glory pass by you, but you can't look directly at it. It's got to pass. It won't stay still for you to look at. So if you stare at it too long, you'll die. So I'm going to let all my goodness, I'm going to let you see just enough of my goodness or my glory that you can see a little bit of it. Look at chapter 34, verse 12, and this is what's powerful. Then Adonai said to Moses, come up to me to the mountain, like what we started with, and stay there, and I will give you the tablets of stone with the Torah and the mitzvot, which I have written so that you may instruct them. So Moses rose up along with his attendant Moses and went up onto the mountain of God. Verse 14. To the elders he said, wait for us here until we come back to you. See, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a dispute should go to them. And when Moses went up the mountain, the cloud covered it, and what came on it? The glory of Adonai settled upon Mount Sinai. So now he's up in the glory. And the cloud, the glory cloud, covered it for how many days? 6 days. And then on the 7th day, he called. Now, what's amazing about this is that this is the reason why Moses' face was shining, as the text tells us, because he was in the glory cloud. And now this is what's interesting. They have sinned with the golden calf in chapter 32. This is chapter 34. So why is he going back up in the mountain again? For another 40 days and 40 nights to make atonement for them. When does he come back? On the 10th day of the 7th month, if you do the math, on the day of atonement. So I know I took a long time in our 10 minutes of Torah. I probably took almost 20 minutes of Torah there. I want to show you just one passage for our prophet reading. I actually borrowed from our 10 minutes of Haftarah. And I want to show you Isaiah 6 verse 1. And it says, in the year of King Uzziah's death, I saw Adonai sitting on a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the what? Temple. Seraphim were standing above him. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. Notice they covered themselves. Why? In verse 3 it says, one called out to another and said, holy, 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 kadosh, 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 is Adonai Sebaot. The whole earth is full of his glory. So even the angels are covering their eyes because of the glory of God. So wait a minute. His train, the train of his robe, filled the temple. When Princess Diana got married, do you remember the train of her dress? After she had already come through the doors, it was still being carried through. This is the imagery of kings and queens and leaders with a robe that represented the length of their magistrate or the level of their glory. The longer the train of their robe, the more glory they have.
Wow.
So imagine when God says, the train of my robe filled the temple. What he's saying is, the covering of my glory filled the temple.
Wow.
Because imagine his robe hitting the floor and coming to the four corners of the room. The train of his robe, that train of his robe. So you won't see me, but I'll let you see my backside,
Yes.
my hinder parts. I'll let you see the train of my robe. Could it be that that's what Isaiah saw? And even seeing that, he says, I'm a man of unclean lips. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy to even see this. I'm a man of unclean lips. And the angel takes the coal off the altar to purge him, to make him worthy. Because he saw a vision of the glory of the Lord. Could this be what Moses saw? So now to close out our time, let's take a look at some Brit Hadashah apostolic writings. And let's take a look at John 1:12, and it says, but whoever did receive him, speaking of Messiah, those trusting in his name, to these he gave the right to become what? Children of God. That literally means ruling, reigning, a power or authority, exousia, the authority of a king. He gives us the royal right to be royal kids. That's what it's saying in the text. They are born not of a bloodline, nor of human desire, nor of man's will, but of who? God. And in verse 14 it says, and the word became what? Flesh and tabernacled among us. The word dwelt in the Greek is referring to tabernacling or a tent. It's skinoo. It's actually the same cognate letters as shekan or shekinah. So it literally means he shekinah among us in a tabernacle. It's what the text is saying. The Greek didn't have a word equivalent, so they took what would be the SKN of skinoo, and they related it to the SKN of Hebrew, the Shin, the Kaf, and the Nun, and that spells shekan, which means to rest or dwell upon, to abide. And it's used for the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is the abiding, dwelling presence of God that was on the tabernacle as a fire by night and a cloud by day. So what it's telling us is Yeshua is tabernacling among us with God's glory in his tent.
Praise the Lord.
Well, prove it, Rabbi. Let's read it. It says, the word became flesh and tabernacled among us, and we looked upon his
Glory.
This is a Jew talking. He starts with the glory of creation. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God, because in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. He moves on to the light of that creation, and then tells us that Yeshua is that light of creation, lights every man that comes into the world. And then he says, if you receive him, you're going to be God's children also. And he says, the Word became flesh and tabernacled among us, and we saw his glory. Because the tent holds the glory. The glory was not only in the tabernacle, it was on the tabernacle. So you not only saw the glory upon Yeshua, you can see the glory in Yeshua.
Amen.
Because he is the glory of the Father, the only one of the Father, full of grace and what? Truth. John testifies about him. He cried out saying, this is he of whom I said, the one who comes after me is above me, because he existed before me. Oh, wow. Your cousin who's older than you by 6 months is now saying he's older than me, because he's from eternity. Verse 16, look what it says. Out of his fullness we have received grace on top of grace. Torah was given through Moses. So he's making a direct reference to Moses and the glory we saw in the tabernacle. The law, the Torah, those tablets, the Torah scroll that was given through Moses, he says, grace and truth came through Yeshua the Messiah. So it's not, well, the law came through Moses, but grace and truth came. There's no but in the Greek. It's and. So this TLV version clearly just says, well, the Torah came through Moses, grace and truth came through Yeshua. In other words, it's saying, if this is true, how much more is this true? If Moses was a true prophet of God, how much more will Yeshua be a prophet like unto Moses and will have a greater glory than Moses had on his face? Because Moses talked to God face to face, but Yeshua has been with the Father from eternity.
Yes.
And he talked to God face to face, and even in the garden he called him Abba, an intimate term for someone who talks to their Father face to face.
Glory, glory.
Yeshua wasn't treated like a slave or a servant. He was treated like a son. The servants are temporarily in the house. Like Moses, he was faithful in God's house. But a son is in the house forever. Because he's a son over the house, because he's an heir of the house. Right? And he says, watch this. Now this is how we know it's all connected to the glory. The glory that was in the tabernacle, the glory on Moses' face. Because look what it says. The Torah was given through Moses. Grace and truth came to Yeshua the Messiah. No one has ever seen God. A direct quote from our passage of Exodus 33. No man can see my face and live. You can't see my glory or my face. So he says, wait a minute, Yeshua gives us the glory, but no man has ever seen God. Wait a minute, I thought all of Israel saw God. They saw a manifestation of God's glory. They didn't see his direct glory.
Amen.
Right? He says, no one has ever seen God, but the one and only God in the Father's embrace has made him known. Wow. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 3. Look what Rav Shaul says in verse 3. It is clear that you are a letter from Messiah delivered by us. In other words, just the way that Moses delivered the Torah, you're a scroll from us. Written not with ink, but with the Ruach, the Spirit of the living God. Not on tablets of stone, but on what? Tablets of the heart. What new covenant concept is that? And who wrote about it? What prophet? Jeremiah. What chapter? 31. He says, I will write the Torah, not just on stone tablets, which you broke, but it's going to now get written on your hearts. So all Rav Shaul is doing is, as a rabbi, quoting Jeremiah about what Moses gave us in the Torah is now written on our hearts. Verse 7 says, now if the ministry of death carved in letters on stone came with such glory that Bnei Israel could not look intently upon Moses' face because of its what? Glory. So there was glory there. Although it was passing away, because the glory was only daily. He'd go in the presence of God, he'd come out with the glory. He'd go back in the presence of God the next day, come out with the glory. The glory would fade away because God would want him to seek God, the Father, again in his presence to get that next glory. Every time he went to talk to God, he came out with the glory on his face and would speak to Israel. When he finished his speaking, he'd put a veil to respect Israel that couldn't handle the glory. But it would fade away for that day. Like manna, it only lasts for a day. The glory would only last for a day. He'd have to go back in the presence of God. How often do we need to go back in the presence of God? Daily. So that we can go from glory to a higher level of glory. Now watch this. It says in verse number 8, it says, how will the ministry of the Ruach not be even more glorious? This is what we call a Kal v'chomer argument. Rabbi Hillel put together a series of 7 laws based upon what's called a Pashat understanding, a simple Pashat level understanding of the text. He says in just simple level, there's about 7 rules to understand the literal meaning of a text. The number 1 rule is called Kal v'chomer, and that means in Hebrew light and heavy. So the rule says this: if something is true in a lighter sense, how much more true is it in a heavier sense? Go through your Bible from old to new and find out how many times God says how much more, how much more. Do a Blue Letter Bible search and type in the words how much more and find out how many times over and over again. Even the Greek New Covenant manuscripts still record the words in Greek, how much more. That's a Jewish concept. Straight from the Torah and the prophets. It's not found in Greek thought. If this is true, how much more? If it's true in a light sense, it's got to be true when you tip the scales on a heavier sense. Okay? Now, watch what he says. He says, how much more? Kol v'chomer argument. For if there is glory in the ministry of condemnation under Moses, and there was, the ministry of righteousness overflows even more in glory. Verse 13. We are not like Moses, who used to put a veil over his what? Face. In order for Bnei Israel not to look intently upon the end of what was passing away. It would pass away at the end of the day, but all day long his face would be glowing. He had to put it on until it faded away. So probably at nighttime he took his prayer shawl off. And so it says in verse 14, but their minds were hardened. For up to this very day the veil remains unlifted at the reading of the ancient covenant, since in Messiah it is passing away. Now he's actually talking about the old stone covenant. Why? Because Jeremiah 31 says, I'm no longer going to give you a covenant on stone. That's passing away. Not the Torah. The ministry of putting it on stone tablets, that ministry under Moses is passing away. It's gone. There's no stone tablets. We won't just have the Torah on stone tablets or even on just a scroll. The new ministry God's instituting is now where the Torah that was on stone and on parchment is now going to be on hearts. That's the new ministry coming. God never got rid of the Torah. He got rid of the ministry that only kept it on stone or parchment instead of on hearts, where we're convicted from within. He says that's passing away. But to this day, whenever Moses is read. So obviously it's not passing away if you can still keep reading it.
That's right.
Did you catch that? I have so many Christian brothers in the Lord that will tell me, don't you see? It says in the text it's passing away. Then how is it that we're able to keep reading it if it's passed away already? They tell me, oh, don't you know that's passed away? When God gave the new covenant in Jesus, it got passed away. Then how are we able to still read it? If it passed away. And why are we reading it if it's passed away? He tells us to read it. Don't take away from it or add to it. And watch what he says. He says, since in Messiah is passing away, but to this very day, whenever Moses is read, a veil lies over their hearts. But whenever someone turns to the Lord, the veil is what? Taken away. How many Jewish believers today have had the veil taken away from their eyes? And something like scales came off like it did Rav Shaul. When Jewish people have an encounter with God supernaturally by His Spirit, the scales come off, the veil is removed, and all of a sudden they see Messiah clearly. In Isaiah 53, clearly in the Torah, clearly in Jeremiah 31, clearly in Ezekiel 36, 25, 27. They see Yeshua in Psalms 22:1. They see Yeshua in Psalm 22:7. They see Yeshua in the readings of Isaiah 61 and 49 and 52 and 53. Why? We have found the one who Moses was writing in the Torah about and who the prophets was revealing. We know absolutely that that is the case. Did I lose power?
Yes.
All right. Battery, guys. I'll just go old school. We have found the one. There we go. We have found the one that Moses was talking about. I'm almost done, so I'm not going to worry about battery. So we have found the one that Moses was talking about, and this is exactly what Rav Shaul found. And this is why he said in verse 17, he says, now the Lord is the Spirit, and where Ruach Adonai is, I love that, there is freedom. Where the Spirit of Adonai is, there's freedom. But we all, with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror. Now remember, the Torah is a mirror. Beholding in a mirror, beholding in the Torah, the glory of the Lord, we should read the Torah and see the glory of Yeshua. When we're looking in the mirror of the Torah, the law is the perfect law of the Torah is a mirror to us. It lets us see ourselves. We should also see the glory of the Lord, because that image we see, that ugly image we see, is being transformed into the same image of Yeshua from glory to glory. Whatever level of glory you've experienced so far, God says, I'm going to transform you to another level of glory. So every day Moses would go into the tent, he would get another level of glory. From glory to another day's worth of glory. Wow. Every day he would go in the presence of the Lord. It says it was by the Lord who is the Spirit. I will close with 2 Corinthians 4, verse 3. It says, and even if our good news is veiled, it is veiled to those who are perishing. In their case, the God of this world is what? Blinded the minds of the unbelieving so that they might not see the light of the good news of the glory of Messiah, who is the image of God. Hebrews 1 tells us the express image of his person. And it says, for we do not proclaim ourselves, but Messiah, Yeshua, as Lord.
and ourselves as your slaves for Yeshua's sake. We're his servants. Now watch this. Jump down to verse 16. Therefore, we do not lose heart. Though our outward man, our flesh is decaying, our old tent is getting old, yet our inner man, our spirit man, is being renewed day by day, from glory to glory. Being transformed. Our spirit man is being transformed. For our trouble, light and momentary, is producing for us an eternal weight of glory. The Hebrew word for glory is kavod, which comes from the root kavad, which means to be heavy or weighty. So when he was saying this in Greek, or it's read to us in Greek, this rabbi, Shaul, Saul of Tarsus, was using a Hebraic term in the text. He says, don't you know we receive a far heavier or weightier glory? If we go through weight and pressure in this world, it's actually measuring out to a weightier glory. So whatever you're going through, it's measuring out for you weightier glory on the scale. For it says, far beyond all comparison, as we look not at what can be seen, the physical, but at what cannot be seen. No man has ever seen my face and can live. No man has seen my glory. He says, so we look towards the glory that we can't see. For instance, the suffering you're going through right now, you don't see the glory on the other side of it. And you don't see the glory on the other side. And what you're going through is a light affliction. And it's setting you up for a greater weight of glory. Because God predestined before the foundation of the world that there would be a glory and a presence on your life, that you would be one of his precious Jewish people. The scales would come off and the veil would be lifted. And you would encounter the Father through Yeshua the Messiah, the God of Israel, through the Messiah of Israel. And the scales would be lifted, and the anointing that came upon you to save you is what's going to be prophetically used to save others and to deliver others and set the captive free. So this light affliction you're going through is momentary. The Rav Shaul says, don't you understand? I've been in prison, I've been whipped, I've been beaten, I've been put down, I've been persecuted by my fellow Pharisees, my fellow Jewish people, but that's okay. For this weight that I'm going through as suffering, it's adding up to a greater weight of glory. If you will just lift your hands and just realize what you're going through is momentary. It's just a sudden setback. It's just a momentary light affliction. But what you're going to experience in the future is a greater weight of glory. It says, but it cannot be seen, but it's eternal. And the eternal weight of God's glory is what we're receiving today. Amen? Amen. Let me give you 5 things I want you to walk away with. Number 1, the Bible says all of Israel saw a manifestation of God's glory. The Kavod Hashem. Kavod Hashem. They all saw it. One day all of Israel will see the glory of Yeshua. He will come in the clouds of heaven with great glory and dominion, the Bible says. From Daniel 7:13, and also recorded in Matthew chapter 24 and Revelation chapter 1 verse 7. It tells us that he's coming with the clouds of heaven. Behold, he's coming with power and great glory. And the second thing is Moshe shined with Hashem's glory as he spoke to God face to face, the way you and I should shine. But Moses shined with Hashem's glory as he spoke to God face to face. Number 3, the third thing you should realize is Moshe couldn't see the direct face of God except through a cloud. You see, right now we're all seeing through a cloud. We see as if like in a mirror, a dark mirror, one that's not polished. But one day we're going to see him as he is. We're going to see him face to face. And I love this. He couldn't see the direct face of God, but except through a cloud. Number 4, we see the express image of God's glory in the face of Messiah. When you see me, you see the Father. And the 5th and final one, this same glory. Will you say that with me? This same glory is reflected in us as earthen vessels to let the light of Messiah shine through us. If it could be on Moses' face in an older covenant, how much more on our face in Messiah through a newer covenant that replaces what was on stone to now be transferred and transformed in our hearts. If it's in us, I don't have to carry around a Torah scroll to study Torah anymore, because I've got the Torah here. I have the words of Isaiah 61. I have Isaiah 53. I have Psalm 22. I've got Psalm 2. I've got Psalm 8. I've got the glory of the scriptures of the Hebrew covenant in my heart through the new covenant Messiah. Do you receive that today? Amen. Would you stand to your feet today? I love the fact that Rabbi Eric and Rebbetzin Leah couldn't be with us this morning because they're both sick. But you know what they did all week long for their rabbi and for you? They slaved and put together these days of morning manna on my behalf, because I said I want to be able to have a real Shabbat Friday evening and rest. Sometimes I'm up way into the night putting it all together after I've got my message done. And they took a load after me when we had our couples fellowship. I said, you know, would you guys be willing to take this on? Oh, Rabbi, yeah, we'd love to do it. And they, all week long, they were texting back and forth, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And all I did was copy and paste this morning manna for your devotion this week. I pasted it with its devotional words, supporting verses for you to look in throughout the whole Bible on these words we find in the Torah, prayer focus, and a spiritual challenge. For instance, we'll pray on Sunday morning, Lord, let me minister before you with all my heart. We'll be challenged with, have you allowed the Lord to minister to you as you serve him? Day 2, we're going to say, may my contributions be acceptable to you, O Lord. The question we're challenged with is, are you being obedient and contributing what God is asking of you? Day 3, as we learn about our calling, help me discern your voice when you call me. Have you responded to his call over your life? Day 4, being wise-hearted. Make me wise-hearted to fulfill your tasks skillfully and creatively. Is your heart wise and invested in the Lord's work? Have you asked for his wisdom to accomplish his will? These are the kind of things that our congregation are putting together for you to study week after week. I sure hope that you're blessed by them. Yes. I sure know that your rabbi is appreciative of those that help to serve in this house, and you give all your heart, soul, and strength to God. And I see the effort, and I see the work. And guess what? None of us are carrying the load alone. It's not just a weight of work, but it's the weight of his glory. Amen. Amen. Stretch your hands for the blessing.
Thank you, Lord. Praise
you, Lord. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'yihunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha. Ve'asem lecha shalom. Amen. May the Lord Adonai bless and keep you. May he shine his face upon you, be gracious to you this week. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you perfect peace. In the name of Yeshua the Messiah, the Prince of Peace. May he give peace to you, establish it for your children, your children's children, for his name's sake and love today. In his name we pray, B'Shem Yeshua. Amen. Amen. God bless you. Shalom.
Praise you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
Yeshua Meshachenu